Hello, everybody. Welcome to Townsend 99, or welcome back if you're a lovely viewer. Today, me and
Mhm.
since day I
There you
can't
go. There
speak.
you go.
Bryer from Breyer's Music Showcase. We'll be reviewing Black Sabbath's fourth studio album, Volume 4. This is also at the end. I'm going to do sort of like a year retrospective on our review series that we did and we're doing. Uh, ask Bryer for his opinions on them and all that, and I'm looking forward to that. But anything you want to add or say about Volume 4 before we begin?
Right, as usual. Yep, always like to go into the background. So, of course, this came out in September of 1972. So, this was the first album not to be produced by Roger Bain, who had produced their previous three albums. They were kind of going through creative differences. So, Roger's out of the picture. And so, basically, Tony decides to take up producing himself. And on the album, it also credits Patrick Meehan, who was their manager at the time. Although Tony has said that really Patrick didn't really do much. He was just kind of he was just kind of an ego. He was kind of an ego type of guy, so he just put his name on there just to make it seem like he had more to do, even though he really didn't. So that's a thing. Um, but yeah, by this point, yep, the drugs were really starting to take control now. I know in interviews I've read, I know Ozzy had said that they would get like speaker boxes full of cocaine, and they would just be snorting it all the time. We'll talk about more cocaine later on in the track listing, but besides that, um, so yeah, a lot of substance abuse. And Bill, he was also having a hard time. He was having a very bad alcohol problem. He was basically becoming an alcoholic, and it would eventually take toll. He would have trouble drumming on some of the songs. So again, I'll get into that. There's one specific song he really struggled with, which we'll get into, which I'll mention later on. And Bill almost died while recording this album because the band liked to pull pranks on each other, and so there was this infamous story with that Bill fell asleep after he got drunk, and so the band found some spray paint, some gold spray paint, decided to spray his whole body. But of course, there's a reason why when people spray paint, they wear a mask. So yeah, Bill almost died there, but he survived. But yeah, barely. But after all that, they still managed to record and release the album, and we're definitely going to see the band experimenting even more on this album. And yeah, at the time, critics were kind of dismissive. Again, at that point, the critics didn't really dig Black Sabbath that much, and so that's not really new to them. But commercially, it still did very well. Peaked at number 5 in the UK and number 13 in the US. And today, once again, it's considered one of Black Sabbath's best. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talk about this one.
I nickname it the Cocaine Album
Oh yeah.
because, as you mentioned, a lot of coke went behind this album. This
Mm-hmm.
album and what's that one album? I think it was like Walk the Line or something like that by Aerosmith.
Oh, oh, which
It's the
Nine in the
White.
Ruts
What's
or
that?
Draw the Line. Draw the Line. So
Oh,
yeah,
the White.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know why I said Walk the Line, but
Yeah.
that's also why I called that Aerosmith's Cocaine album, the Cocaine
Mm-hmm.
album. Uh, but yeah, let's get started though. First song on the album. This is the last album to have title conundrums. Wheels of Confusion, The Straightener. Uh,
Yeah.
there's no Straightener song, just Wheels of Confusion. Just wanted
Mm-hmm.
to point that out. But what do you think of that song?
Yeah, longest song on the album, and yeah, definitely a great way to open it up. I mean, it starts out with this very bluesy guitar intro, definitely hooks you in. And then once that's done, it switches up to a much more heavier guitar sound. Um, the production sounds really pretty good, I'd say. I mean, this was Tony's first time producing, and I think he did a really great job on this one. Um, it's a good mid tempo track. The drumming on here very good. Um, and another more great guitar work from Tony on this stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, and the lyrics kind of are supposed to be about loss of innocence and stuff like that. So yes, I kind of appreciate that sort of aspect of it, and even the closing instrumental section. That long instrumental at the very end. Apparently, that's supposed to be the straightener, but I really don't care. But still, really great way to close out that song. But yeah, very great opening track.
I agree. Really good song. Love the opener. One of my favorites on this album.
Mm-hmm.
I love the slow beginning. My opinion, I wish it would have went a little longer. I feel like it
Mm.
just begins and then like right after and then like feels like a couple of seconds later it kind of just abruptly ends almost. I feel like it would have been cool to have like at least 30 seconds of that.
Mm.
Would have been cool. The rest of the song, great. Love Ozzy's vocals.
Oh yeah.
One of Ozzy's best vocals on an album. This and the next album are my
Mm-hmm.
favorite vocally by Ozzy. Not to say that he wasn't any good on the previous three albums. I feel like he was great on those, but I feel like this album, I feel like his vocals were easily the best on
Yeah, I
this.
feel like by this point, I feel like he's a lot more confident as lead singer.
There's a certain song on this album which isn't one of my favorite songs on the album, but the vocals on it, it's amazing. But we'll
Mm.
get into that when we get into that. But yeah, this song's amazing, and I love the straightener part at
Mm-hmm.
the end. It's epic instrumental. Reminds me of like the ending of Iron Man and the ending of
Mm-hmm.
especially War Pigs. This reminds me of War Pigs more than anything else, if you
Hmm.
ask me. Except I think this is way
Yeah,
better than.
I mean they're kind of similar in length too. I think.
Yeah, I find this to be a lot better than War Pigs. If there was
Mm.
a long Sabbath song to be played a lot, I'd rather it be this song. But I digress. Great song though.
Hmm.
Next song on the album, "Tomorrow's Dream."
Okay, so surprisingly, this was the only single they released for this album. And it's a pretty fine single. Just another kind of breakup type of song, just kind of breaking free from a bad relationship and starting a new life, that sort of thing. Some more very good guitar by Tony and some good drumming here. It's one of the shorter songs of the album, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's short and it's sweet. It's not one of my favorite songs on the album, but I still enjoy it quite a bit. So there you have it.
I personally really enjoy this song. I really like it.
Hmm.
It didn't quite make it into my top five, but it's still a really good song. Surprised that this was the chosen single.
Yeah,
The next song I thought was the single, but
yeah, no, right? And I
we'll,
think
we'll
it's
get
some,
into that.
and not many people talk about Tomorrow's Dream very much.
Yeah, this is an underrated song, though. I will say, very underrated.
Hmm.
Nice little deep cut, even though it is a single. Next song on the album is what I thought was the single off the album was "Changes." Uh,
Yeah. So this was probably they're very different from anybody would expect from Black Sabbath because this is pretty much a straight up piano ballad. It's just about a breakup because I believe I mentioned in the last episode that Bill went through a divorce. I think his marriage kind of went down, and so this song was kind of inspired by it. I know Geezer wrote the lyrics, but he kind of had Bill in mind while writing it. Um, yeah, I've always thought it was a really beautiful song. I know there's some die-hard Black Sabbath fans who really don't like it because it's a bit soft for them, but it's I mean, I always say this. I'm a sucker for ballads, so I thought this was very welcome in their catalog. Again, the piano playing is very pretty, and I love the use of the mellotron in the background, kind of simulating strings. Uh, Sounds really great, and I really love Ozzy's performance on this track. I think you can really hear the emotion coming through. Um, yeah, just very nice song. And a little side note, apparently this song actually would eventually re-enter the charts in 2003 when Ozzy and his daughter did a cover of this song. So it's kind of interesting. So I've heard it. It's okay. It's fine. But you can't really top the original. But yeah, I've always enjoyed Changes. it's a really good song.
Big Mouth famously used the
Oh
cover
yeah,
version on their
they
show.
used the cover version. Yeah.
When I first heard the song, I'm like, is it that song from Big Mouth?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, it's the like when I well I knew this wasn't the version that was using it, but when I first heard it, I'm like this song sounds awfully familiar,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh no, it's that one song from Big Mouth. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Uh, this is the song that I was mentioning before. It's not one of my favorites off the album, but
Mm-hmm.
vocally, Ozzy Osbourne kills it on the
Mm-hmm.
vocals. You hear the emotions that are going through him. It almost sounds like he wrote it for himself, almost the way he sings it. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
I knew he didn't write it, but the way he sings it, just you can hear the emotions. That to me is what makes a great lead singer in a band is
Mm-hmm.
they could sing a song like they wrote it. Like
Yeah.
the only other
They're very good they're very good interpreting the lyrics.
mhm. The only other person who, in my opinion, who's able to do that, but who to me who does it the best is Daltrey from the Who.
Oh yeah, yeah. I would agree with that. I think Roger definitely did it the best, especially
Like he
taking Pete's like more theatrical, more serious stuff and just internalizing it.
hmm like yeah, like songs like Bob O'Reilly. Like it sounds like
Mm-hmm.
he wrote the song, even though he couldn't write a song for you
Right.
know. But yeah, it's an amazing song. But what it's like I said, it's not one of my favorites off the album, but it is a very good song. It's a song that I do go back to a lot, so that should
Mm-hmm.
tell you how much I enjoy it. I mean, like 9 out of these 10 tracks are just S tier Black Sabbath material.
Mm.
So if I say it's not like when I say one of these songs aren't one of my favorites, that doesn't mean it's not a bad song by any means. It's just amongst the other 9 songs, it just happens to not be up there. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Next song on the album, though, if I don't even know if I want to call it a song. It's FX.
Yeah. Well, in my original notes for this track, I'm calling it a track, not a song, but my original, I only had two things to say. One, it was instrumental. Two, it exists. That was my original notes at the time. But luckily, I did do some research behind it, and apparently this was like kind of a joke thing. So it kind of came about when Tony was kind of recording some guitar parts, and then Tony usually wears like that cross necklace thing he usually wears. Apparently, he was recording stuff, and his guitar accidentally hit the strings and it made a noise. And let me just say, the band were very high, and so when they heard that, they thought that was the coolest thing they ever heard in their life. And so they decided to just had the great idea to just take Tony's guitar, just kind of place it down, and literally just throw random stuff at it and just see what noises they can make. And they just added an echo effect, and there you go. That's FX.
It's a Black Sabbath track on this Black Sabbath album.
Yeah,
That's all I gotta say about it.
exactly.
It's a Black Sabbath track on a Black Sabbath album.
Just you just kind you hear it, and then you just like, okay, next song, please.
Yeah, like after the amazing changes and the song that comes after it, it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the point?
Yeah.
Like that's like the biggest reason why I never go back. Like I used to not go back to this album. I heard this album like a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that one track, and I'm like, no more Volume 4 for me. I didn't even listen to the other 6 tracks. I'm like, I'm not listening to the rest of this.
Mm-hmm.
If they're gonna do what they did here, I'm not giving the other tracks a chance. Which I did end up regretting because last week I listened to this album and I'm like, this is one of Black Sabbath's best albums. What's wrong
Mm-hmm.
with me? It's funny too because I always said that Paranoid's my least favorite Black Sabbath of the first 6, and I only heard like the first 4 tracks on this album. So I should tell you my thoughts on Paranoid. If you think if I'm saying the first 3 tracks on Volume 4 is better than the entirety of Paranoid, but now that I've heard the whole album, I could full heartedly say this is one of my favorite Sabbath albums. But this
Mm-hmm.
track does not prove anything though of that.
Yeah,
It's
no.
just, what's the? I still don't get the purpose of this. It's just
Yeah.
I get it. They were impressed at the time of the sound effects, but
Uh-huh. And again, they were
it's
high, so
yeah,
yeah, that
yeah,
kind of clouds their judgment.
yeah, on cocaine most likely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, uh, yeah. I don't even like. Honest, I will say though, it does depict the album cover pretty well. Just
Hmm.
like the
Yeah.
music itself depicts the album cover perfectly well, especially the sound effects. Like whenever when I'm thinking the album cover, I just think of them like looking at each other and seeing themselves orange, like Ozzy is on
That's
top.
actually good. That's actually really good. I can totally see that.
Like they're just looking at each other, like while they're doing the sound effects, like whoa, like just like yo, Ozzy, you're orange. But I don't know. That's like the only good thing I could say about that track.
Hmm.
Side one ends off on a way better note.
Yeah.
Super note.
Super not. So this is definitely definitely one more popular tracks on this album, even though it wasn't released as a single. But yeah, so the term supernaut is supposed to be kind of just, if you break it down, super meaning greater, and then not meaning explorer. And basically, it's supposed to be a song about living life to the fullest, basically. And of course, they were on drugs, and so they felt like they were living life to the fullest at that point. Like, so I think the music really captures that feeling, just constantly moving, everything's happening so fast. It's just still like really heavy, really rocking track, just a killer riff behind it. Again, one of Tony's best riffs, I think I'd say. um Drumming so heavy, great guitar solo. And again, there's a switch up again. I can't really like, the switch up's so different from the rest of the track. Like, if people have not heard this track and you hear it, there's a one section that's like completely different from everything else, but it sounds so cool. I don't even know what type of music that would be. Kind of has a Spanish feel almost. I don't really know, but still very very cool. Um, and then so yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites on this album for sure. And a little side note, this was one of John Bonham's. John Bonham really liked this track, so there you go.
Yeah, this is a great way to end off the first side of the record. I didn't know. I never heard this song before listening to this album
Hmm.
in its entirety for the first time. After hearing, the interestingness that is FX, and I heard
Hmm.
this song, I'm like, what the heck, dude? Like, you have like two amazing songs. We have like one awful thing. Like, you have like two brioche buns and like
Hmm.
a McDonald's patty in between. That's my comparison. It's just like you got two like amazing toasted brioche buns, and then you have a like a thin McDonald's patty in between. That's my judgment on that.
Hmm.
Some Sabbath fans are probably thinking, "What the heck? What kind of assessment's that?" I knew someone who liked FX, which is weird. My
Yeah,
coworker. Then then again,
interesting.
then again, he was a deadhead, so
Oh well, yeah,
there's that.
that's true. That's probably it.
Yep. Uh, but yeah, this is a great song though. I do like that switch up in the song. Always like when they do that. Gives it character. But good stuff. First song on the second side of the record, Snowblind.
Right. Another pretty, most Black Sabbath fans usually is a popular one. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious what this song's about. I mean, I think they literally say that in the actual lyrics. But yep, it's about cocaine. Originally, funny enough, they originally wanted to call this album Snowblind, but again, the record execs were like, no, don't do that. So they just went with Volume 4, just to make it simple. But regardless, again, another really great riff on here. Great, more changes in dynamics throughout the track. Really good guitar solo. Um, like the ending, I really enjoy the ending where it really picks up speed. Um, and there's even a little bit of strings at the end. Kind of surprising. I kind of forgot there were strings in this at the towards the very end. Like, you can kind of faintly hear them. I never really paid attention to them. Yeah, it's really good song. Um, let's see, where did I rank this? That's somewhere towards the middle, so it didn't make my top 5, but still, it's a very good song. Again, So aside from FX, I agree with you. There's really not really a song I really don't like on this. So yeah,
This song's freaking epic.
yeah, yeah,
Popular for a reason. Popular for a
yeah.
great reason. Besides the songs that are stupidly popular or Paranoid, every track
Mm,
that's popular by Black Sabbath, I could totally see why.
mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that like when you said like these previous two songs and changes were like the biggest songs off this album, like yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The songs
Mm-hmm.
are freaking awesome. Uh, Funny enough, I never hear any of those on 99.9 The Hawk, which
I
they're too
mean,
busy. They're too busy playing Paranoid and Iron
yeah,
Man's,
yeah.
which
It's about cocaine, so I guess that's another reason.
they
Well,
they they
well,
literally played they played Cocaine by Eric Clapton on the radio.
oh,
So
that's true. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, yes, yeah. I don't know why.
yeah, it's just maybe they just don't like Black Sabbath. They maybe the
Well,
only
yeah,
Black Sabbath they do like is those two songs.
yeah. They just get like they always just have like a playlist and they just play the same playlist every day because they're too lazy to make a new one.
Basically, that's why I hate radio. But I could go on a whole rant on why I hate radio. But
Yeah,
that
I mean,
will.
at least modern radio. I mean, I'm sure radio was so much better back then.
Oh yeah, a lot of people, even especially boomers, said that radio used to be a lot better. Like they used
Mm-hmm.
to play album cuts. They
Mm-hmm.
used to do a lot more. They had a lot more variety.
Yeah.
Now at that point, when a band releases a new album, they would play that new song. They wouldn't like. So like my radio station, like when the Rolling Stones made Hackney Diamonds, you're like, oh, Hackney Diamonds by the Rolling Stones, and then they would cut to Sympathy for the Devil. Like,
Oh,
why don't you
yeah.
play Angry?
Yeah.
Play Angry. That song just came out and it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress. Like I said, if I was ranting about the radio, Classic Rock Radio, we'd be on this video for an hour.
Right.
Uh, Really good song though. I love Snowblind. I
Mm-hmm.
wish I, I wish that song was played on the radio. Cornucopia is the next track.
All right. Okay. So I mentioned earlier that Bill was struggling on the track. This was the one. Yeah. Again, Bill was really struggling with with the drumming because it's as you can hear that the drumming is definitely a lot more complex than normal. Um, but yeah, Bill was able to get through it eventually, and again, very cool. I think the drumming patterns on this really makes the song stand out, and the tone that Tony uses on this track just so dirty, so sludgy. It's very awesome, very cool. And the bass on here again makes it is a nice little standout here. Again, very sounds like they tuned it down a bit. Again, making it sound a lot heavier, which I enjoy. Yeah, this one barely missed the top five, but still really great. I really like the second half where it kind of is a lot more bluesy, but still very heavy as well. And almost forgot the lyrics, but the lyrics, I mean, it's basically about wealth and greed and the effects it has on people. I mean, cornucopia, having a lot of stuff. Pretty self-explanatory, but yeah, very good song. One of my, again, just barely missed my top five.
This is one of my favorite songs on the album. I'm not gonna tell you where it is, but it is in my top five.
Mm-hmm.
Really good song. I love the drumming on this, even though he did have a trouble with it.
Mm-hmm.
Really good stuff though. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but it's a song that I really enjoy when it does come on the album.
Mm-hmm.
Next song on the album, Laguna Sunrise.
There we go. Laguna Sunrise. So this is the other instrumental and far better than FX. Just a nice acoustic number. Basically, this kind of came about where I think they were touring LA at the time, or they were in LA at the time, and Tony they had a party, and Tony got up early and woke up just in time to see the sunrise, and kind of just wrote this, kind of composed it right there on guitar. And yeah, it's a very pretty number, some nice strings on here, and apparently a DJ actually used it on his show, and they called him DJ Fluff. That was his, I guess that was his stage name. We'll talk more about DJ Fluff when we get to the next album. You'll probably understand why, but yeah, this is a nice instrumental. I liked it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, DJ Fluff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this is probably my least favorite off the album, besides
Mm-hmm.
obvious one.
Right.
Could be any more obvious what the weakest track on this album is, but of the normal tracks, this is probably my least favorite. But still, a
Mm-hmm.
really good track though. That's really about it. It's just a good. It's a nice acoustic guitar. That's about it. I don't really not a whole lot to say or add. Pretty much summed it up pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Next song on the album, Saint Vitus Dance.
Right. Yeah, this is another one I really enjoyed. This is another one of my favorites personally. Yeah, and I really like the riff on here. It's very catchy melody to it. Has this very almost dance sort of thing, which kind of fits the title because of course, it's supposed to be reference, kind of a reference to two things. So you have Vitus, who was I think he was mentioned in the Bible, but he was supposed to be the patron saint of dancing. And apparently, Saint Vitus dance is supposed to be a real disease where where your body just can't control itself, like you're constantly having spasms and stuff like that, almost like you're dancing. So I guess that kind of fits the music side of things. But basically, what the lyrics are about, it's supposed to be a kind of like, from what I can remember, it's about this guy who thinks his wife is stealing money from him, and so he dumps her, but then later finds out that it was actually a misunderstanding, and so he kind of messed up, and so yeah, it's kind of a weird juxtaposition to the music, but still, I still think it's a really catchy song. The bass and drums again, very good. Another song that's definitely another one of the shorter songs on the album, but I think it's very good. This is the song I usually go back to quite a bit on this album. So yeah, pretty good.
I agree. This is a really good song on the album. Just barely didn't make it into my top five, but
Hmm.
still a really good song though. Uh, yeah, that's a cool backstory though with the just the whole story of it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's like a double meaning, but I like that. Uh, yeah, it's a really good song though. Again, I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. Really good though.
Hmm.
Last song on the album, the epic Under the Sun. And this is the very last song with a title conundrum, Under the Sun slash Every Day Comes and Goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so like you said, this is definitely an epic track. Definitely in my top five. Not gonna say where. But yeah, just another great catchy guitar riff by Tony. The drumming is absolutely spectacular. Many great solos. The outro is spectacular as well. And the bridge, which is supposed to be every day comes and goes, like that bridge section is supposed to be that. Um, Even that's very cool. Just again, so many different sections to it. And lyrically, it's kind of interesting. We kind of joked about it off air when we weren't recording, but about how it almost has an anti-religious theme to it, but upon more examination and more research, I found out that it's not really it's not really talking bad about religion itself. It's kind of being about just not having religion, not being forced into religion, like making your own choices. Like if you want to go be religious or something, or you want to go your own path, like you have that decision. So that's basically what the song's trying to supposed to say. Like we said, like Geezer was Christian, so I don't think he would want an anti-Christian song too badly. But yeah, just a fantastic way to close out the album, and definitely one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs as of right now in terms of the first four albums. Like I'd say this song would probably be in the top 10 songs based on like I said, based on these four albums. So yeah, awesome track.
I agree. This first time I heard this was with Bryer.
Mm-hmm.
Was listening to it with the YouTube track. I'm just like, this song is freaking epic. One of the greatest Sabbath songs I've ever heard. I'm not gonna tell you where it falls on my list now because I listened to their first six albums just recently.
Mm-hmm.
I have all their songs ranked from worst to best. We'll say it is up there. Uh, but you'll find out where it's ranked amongst these four albums. But it's pretty high. Well, yeah, it's pretty high. But yeah, Good stuff. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Hmm.
What is your top 5 songs?
All right, top 5 songs. So at number 5, I have Saint Vitus Dance. Number 4, Changes. Number 3, Wheels of Confusion. Number 2, Supernaut. And number 1, Under the Sun. And for an honorable mention, Cornucopia. And if I were to give a dishonorable mention, yeah, it'll be FX. So, but there you go.
Wait, it's not tomorrow. Tomorrow's dream.
No, now that would be someone's dream right there.
Uh, oh man, my top 5: Snowblind. Number 4, Supernaut. Number 3, Cornucopia. Number 2, Wheels of Confusion. Number 1, Under the Sun.
Mm,
For my honorable mention, Saint Vitus Dance. I really wanted that to be in there, but just barely
mm,
didn't get on there. It's either that or Snowblind. As of right now, I prefer Snowblind. As for the dishonorable mention, yeah, it's obvious. Sound
yeah,
effects, the
yeah.
obvious choice. Uh, as for my top 10 songs by them as of now, well, like I said, I'm not going to say it every time unless it's a drastic change. And my top 10 is very different now than it was last video. Number 10, After Forever from Masters of Reality. Number 9, Orchid slash Lord of the World. Number 8, Into the Void. Number 7, Tomorrow's Dream. Number 6, Saint Vitus Dance, and then my top 5 songs is basically my top song. It's 5 songs from this album. So
Mm-hmm.
heavily Volume 4 oriented. There's only 3 songs off of Masters of Reality and 0 songs from the first 2 albums. So
Wow.
that should tell you how much I like the third and fourth album.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
uh yeah. But what is your score on this album?
All right. So as of now, I'm going to give this a 9.25. So we're fine. I'm finally out of the 9 out of 10s, and now it's pretty obvious as of now. This is, in terms of the first 4, this is currently my favorites. Again, I think the production much better. There's a lot of great songs on here, very heavy. The experimentation on here is like somewhat of a good balance, I think. But of course, you and I know that this, when we get to the next album, then yeah, that one's probably gonna beat this. But still, very good album. I can see why there are some people who say this is their favorite, but yeah, 9.25 as of now.
I'd say this is probably their second most popular album behind
Mm-hmm.
Paranoid. I
Yeah.
would. Here's what I gotta say. From what I've read and what I've heard from other fans. So like for me, like usually there's the general consensus on what's a band's best album,
Mm-hmm.
like what casual listeners consider the best album. But then there's
Right.
like
Yeah.
general consensus for fans, like Beatle fans,
Mm-hmm.
Black Sabbath fans, and all that. Like they have like the group has like a certain like favorite. I'd say this is probably this is probably like most fans' favorite album. Like
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I would agree with that.
because I see so many people like the Canadian Stud Muffin.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He ranked this as the worst Ozzy Osbourne album.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that. This one person was like, I had to click off of the video when I saw that Volume 4 is number 8. This is like literally one of my favorite. This is like literally for me the best album of all time. So
Yeah,
can't.
and of course, yeah. So it's very interesting, yeah, because I know, of course, Sea and Tranquility. I watched his Black Sabbath ranking, and this is his favorite. So, kind of shows.
Honestly, I don't know which one I prefer over this one or Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. I'm not sure yet. I
Hmm.
still tough between those two. I'm gonna say right now, 10 out of 10 in my top 100 albums of all time.
Nice. Yeah.
Just by listening to it the first time in its entirety, one of the greatest albums I ever heard. It's just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is also a top 100 album. So there's also another one called Heaven and Hell that's also my top 100. So those, well, I'm just gonna say now those are my 3 favorite Sabbath albums. So there's still a good chunk of Sabbath albums I never heard yet, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my 3 favorite Sabbath albums will remain the same. But I forgot what else I had. Yeah, so as of now, I guess I'll since I have it written down. Uh, the first album I had a 9.75 out of 10. I want to give
Mhm.
it a 10 out of 10, but it's not my top 100 albums.
Mm,
Paranoid, I gave a 7 out of 10, uh, purely for the fact that I usually just listen to the second side of the record. Master of Reality, that's a 9.75 out of 10. That if I want it to be my top 100 albums, but there's so many good albums to choose from.
mhm.
In Volume 4, I have that as a 10 out of 10. So this is my first 10 out of 10 for the video. I think I might have said 9. I might have said 10 out of 10 on the previous videos, but yeah, I changed my rating since then.
Hmm. Okay.
Uh, Speaking of which, if you look at the title right now, I have Volume 4 review and all that, plus the year retrospective. Uh, I have a question for you, Bryer.
Okay.
What did you think of this year's series? The Bird series, the Mamas and Papas series, and so far the Black Sabbath series. What's your opinions on it?
Yeah, I mean they've been great. Yeah, it's been fun exploring a lot of these catalogs, getting to talk with somebody about them, and again, just kind of exploring some of these bands that I knew a bit about, but never really dove that deep into them. I know the Birds was the first one we did, and that was definitely a very fun experience to kind of see because I knew the first two albums and nothing else after that, so it was really cool to kind of see what other hidden gems are in their catalog, and I was pleasantly surprised by that. Same with the Mamas and the Papas. Again, I only knew the debut, but nothing else. And through that series, I mean, I wouldn't have heard their second album, which is really great. Um, and also, the Papas and the Mamas has grown on me since we first reviewed it, I think. So yeah, it's been good. And then currently the Black Sabbath series. I mean, it's again I'm having a blast because again I this is like the first time I'm talking about somebody who's into like heavier stuff because I'm always into more heavier stuff. That's kind of how I've always been, and it's nice to actually talk to somebody who actually knows a little bit of this stuff as well. So it's been great. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun just talking to you about these bands and really exploring, really seeing the hidden gems and learning, and even learning a bit more of their backstory and the history that went into their career. So it's been a blast. I'm looking forward to doing it more next year.
Yes. We're going to be doing, well, obviously, we're going to be finishing Sabbath next year. I mentioned this off stream a couple. I don't know if I mentioned it this. I didn't think I mentioned it. This is my last video for 2023. Uh, Next year, like I said, I wanted to start my top 100 album series. I also wanted to start my Bob Dylan series sometime next year. Uh, I'm also going to be, well, along with Black Sabbath with Bryer, we're also going to be doing a Genesis series, listen to every Genesis album. Uh, Very excited to do that because
Hmm.
there's one of my favorite albums of all time is on there.
Oh yeah.
Well, a couple of them are on there, but one of them especially,
Hmm.
there's a fox on the album cover. Uh,
And yeah,
one
and I
of them my
may have two vinyl copies of it.
yeah, and may one of them may or may not have two side ones on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then uh I decided, hey, I'm gonna do an artist that I'm not used to doing, like I'm not used to listening to for Bryer. Gonna do Kate Bush after that. I know you love Kate Bush. I
Oh
did that
yeah.
with I'm doing that with Bryer, and I'm also doing that with Jason. After our Kinks and Hermits series, we're doing John Denver because I know he really likes John Denver.
Hmm.
So I'm like, hey, we're gonna do a series on John Denver. Not sure about Scott. I don't know if I'm. We started the Doors series, which I've
Hmm. And
seen.
I know the three of us are doing Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the future of those yet. I'm hoping we could finish Fleetwood Mac at least, but I have the Doors series as unlisted because we still haven't made Strange Days the Strange Days review, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
even sure if we're even gonna finish that series. It's probably just the one review thing. I'm not sure yet. That's something that me and Scott will talk about off stream, of
Mm-hmm.
course. But uh, just anything else you like to add or mention before we close out for today?
Of course, to the people watching this video, from all of us here, have a happy holidays and see you next year.
Yes, see you next year. Happy 20. Thank goodness for this great year. This was a great year for reviews. I reviewed some of my favorite albums on my channel, on Scott's channel. This just is a really good year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we did our redo series. We not series. We did our redo video on the Who ranking. That was fun to do because Jason was able to be on that video.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm happy that I'm so proud that Jason's a Who fan now.
Yeah.
That was I joke around saying that was a wrong that was surely fixed. But of course, can't not everyone has to like the Who, but you know. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you in the next year. I don't know what made that video be. It might be the
Mm-hmm.
Kinks. But thank you so much. Enjoy. Have a happy holiday.